got every time. Welcome back to Casuals Encounter, joined by myself, Will from Casuals Corner MMA, and also your very own Leo Cooper. You may know him from films such as A Guide to and the illustrious list of weight classes and breakdowns alike. And today we're going to talk about UFC Vegas 75, which was actually a pretty tasty card. But before we do that, Leo, I know that you're a little bit of a coffee connoisseur.
Oh, mate.
And I wanted to ask you, what's your go-to tipple at the moment?
What? Just coffee in general?
Yeah. I'm starting
You know
to get
those
into it. I've never been
know
into it. I'm
those-
starting to get into it a little bit.
Yeah, you know those little they're like the Nescafe like latte like pouches. I don't know how to explain them. They're like little sachets. Yeah, they're like the little gold ones. They're a staple in my house.
Are you hot?
Yeah, I'm basic, mate. I'm basic. No, usually I have cold, but those are hot ones only. But if I'm going cold, there's like Nespresso, like little capsule ones, which are like made for iced coffees, which are decent.
Yeah,
I'm
started getting into
not opposed.
iced coffee heavy.
You can't go once you go in, you can't go back, man.
I feel like they've grabbed me. They've grabbed me and they've dragged me in. It first started happening when I went to Australia, and they've got a massive coffee scene out there. I'd never really cared for it. And then I started getting these. I thought, okay, I'll get some iced coffee. Then I started tasting the grounds and the earthiness, and I started geeking out on the different beans and whatnot. And I thought, this is like,
As long as there's no sugar.
No, I'm not.
As long as there's no sugar, man.
I'm not one for sugar too much, to be fair. But I've stumbled across this little concoction. It's Taylor's ground coffee, which is Harrogate area. Delightful. 189 years the family's been going, doing nothing for coffee. So I read the back of the packaging today. We'll come on to fight in a second. But I got that 100% cocoa flakes. So just 100% of the actual fruit of the chocolate. And I just chucked a little bit of that in. And because it's got that bitterness, it's got no sweetness because it's not sugar into the chocolate. It just sort of balances nicely with the coffee, and you just get this almost sweetness but bitterness. But yeah, it's delightful.
I haven't had one today. Healthy. You're making me want some caffeine, man.
No, I got one just to sip on while we have a
get it off,
chat.
Man. I can't look at it. It's making me want one.
Honestly, it's delightful. I had you know what the last thing on this, I had the most wonderful. This is the least interesting conversation, but I had the most wonderful little Starbucks glass cup that I used the iced coffee for. I had the perfect lid, perfect seal, like incredible, perfect straw. And something drops out of the cupboard and smashed it. So that's my replacement. But anyway, let's jump straight into it because last night's card was good. We've not got too long today. We've got just about an hour. So let's get started.
Into it, mate.
Just get into it. What did you like? What jumps out the page to you? You don't have to start anywhere particular. Just tell me what you thought.
That it was one of the pre-fights, the Hernandez versus Bondar. That was besides some questionable stoppage and refereeing as well. Well, not just the refereeing, but the commission thing. That whole controversy right at the end with the overturning it to a decision, which was a shame because it was such a great fight. And the finish was great as well, but the stoppage was terrible. I was actually uncomfortable to watch. I'm when you watch for so long and you get you kind of get just used to violence. That actually that was the first time in a while I actually kind of cringed a little bit watching it because that guy was just getting pounded with elbows to the face, and it kind of got to me a little bit. It was bad. Not good.
Fascinating that because every MMA fan can actually remember a time where they were sobered up to the sport a little bit because we've become a little bit desensitized.
Yeah, exactly.
And for me, it was Benoit Saint Denis when he made his debut and he went up a weight and I think fought Zielinski. I may have just pulled that.
Very obscure.
But it was such a vicious beating and it was so aggressive and it was hard to watch. It was genuinely hard to watch. I watched it with a friend who doesn't really watch it. And I bumped into him the other day. I was like, remember when we watched that UFC card? He's nearly actually died. I thought, I forgot I watched that with you, but yeah, I think crazy.
The one that reminds me of Kevin Lee versus Gillespie. That was one of the most... That frightened me, man. I remember watching that live, that head kick. It was like, oh, shit. That's a similar vein.
That was real great. Tell me what you thought about the main fight, because that was a scrap, to be perfect.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not surprised it was going to go to a decision, but I didn't think you'd think. Sure. I think it just kind of cements it that Vettori has probably got the best chin in the sport. That guy can take a beating, man. Because, I mean, respect Cannonier. For me, I think it was kind of like, we know Cannonier won his last fight against Strickland, but it was kind of like, I think to me, it was a reminder of how good he actually is. Because I didn't, the Strickland fight for me wasn't very convincing. It was, he won, but I wouldn't say he gained much stock from it. But, that beatdown last night, I think was kind of a testament to how good he really was. And it was a kind of reminder of that for sure.
True, because as you say that, I just then processed, oh yeah, he fought Sean Strickland. I completely
exactly. No one remembers because it was kind of just unforgettable.
That was just eliminated from my mind.
Yeah.
I didn't, almost like when Sean Strickland fought Kamaru Usman. But anyway, going back to the point, yeah, it was a really good fight. Like you said, I didn't expect Cannonier to get his hand raised if it went to decision. I think Marvin Vettoris really hit the nail on the head in his pre-fight interview with the panel. He said he's really been working on not just his adjustments in terms of skill set, but his in-fight adjustments. And I think that's a good observation, because the one thing that I think was the difference, because even though it was a pretty brutal fight for Marvin Vettori, he had his moments. And one thing which I think split the two was the fact that Jared Cannonier made some really nice adjustments to his game. He started adding in the teep kicks, more calf kicks, his jabs started coming into a play, and started mixing up the tempos of his attack, whilst Vettori, again, was quite predictable in what he was going to throw. And Jared started getting a read on that better throughout the round, so he could land heavier shots. So, we spoke about Vettori before, but what do you think this does to him? He's still only young, 29. He's not quite at that level, but he's not the level before. What do you think?
I mean, I said last week he kind of can't put the pieces together. Like he's got all the sort of markings of someone who could be a great fighter, and he is a great fighter, but to get to that next level, like he's just missing something. He's just like, he hasn't got the edge over anyone in all of the areas in that sort of top 5 area. So it's difficult for him to, like, I think when it comes to those top matchups, it's hard to see him just getting into that top echelon, just because he needs. I mean, you're right though. He is young, so there's time to learn and prove. At 29, in that sort of those weights, sort of welterweight and middleweight, sort of those two weight divisions, so you kind of hit your prime in sort of early 30s. So he's still got that, I think, left in him. So I could see him improving. I think it's not over for him. He's a hard man. He's going to keep going. So yeah, I'm optimistic about his future. I just think he has to learn to improve in the areas he needs to improve on. I mean, his chin can carry him, but I think there's got to be a sense of urgency there in terms of how long he takes to improve, because when you get older, your chin goes, and that's probably his biggest strength. So at the moment he goes, that you can't rely on it.
I look at him and I think his career could look something like a Michael Bisping.
I was thinking that when I was talking.
There's good skills throughout his whole game. He's just about putting them together, then putting again with the mental. Because the one thing I would have liked to have seen from him more was the threat of the takedown, or at least the level change, to just give a different look, if anything else. He doesn't give you an orthodox look, and which is not necessarily a problem. But again, just from throwing out basically equations for your opponent to solve, he's throwing out a lot less equations. So I think when he gets to the upper echelon, he just is providing less problems for them to solve. Yeah, and I agree with that. Needed, right? So whether that's an orthodox look, whether that's a level change, whether that's a consistent level change to set up your different shots, because he's got the grappling. He does have the grappling. He's got 9 submissions. He's very well versed on the ground. His wrestling's good. It's not great, but he's got good submissions, and he's strong, and he's got a good will to win, which is important when you hit the canvas, especially at those bigger weight classes where sometimes it just comes down to conditioning. I think he's got all the skills there. It's just about actually forming them together. But Jared Cannonier, shout out, because I did not expect really that sort of performance. And 39 years old, ever improving, set the record. I mean,
he's 39. Jesus,
it's crazy.
That's mad.
And to have that heavyweight body, to bring it down to light heavyweight, to come down to middleweight, and to have that conditioning, it's just ridiculous. And it just
still look good as well. Yeah.
I mean, he looks in shape. That brings us on to the co-main. We won't go into too much depth on this one. There's not tons to say, but just what did you think about the Arman Tsarukyan fight? Because he was in a tricky spot. It was a little bit of a lose. So what did you think?
Yeah, I mean, that tends to happen when you fight guys. No one wants to fight you, so you're forced to take those sort of low rank bouts. So yeah, he kind of had, it was kind of everything was on him to win that, really. And I think that, you know, his opponent Joaquin having nothing to lose, I think that kind of proved that last night, because he went for it, and he rocked him, which surprised me, I gotta say. Yeah, because that's the first time we've even seen Sarukian even like remotely in trouble or hurt, I'd say. And you know, I mean, obviously, you know, sorry, he did prove, you know, our man came in, you know, his grappling proved to be the difference, as I think all of us expected it to. And a lot of people were discrediting him after that win, saying, oh, he's not title caliber. And I completely disagree. We've seen it before. When Edwards got rocked by Diaz, people were saying he was a bum, he was nothing. It's not true. It happens to the best fighters. No one's invincible, you know, and that I think it was one of them last night. So I respect that he called out Makhachev. I think there's a psychological, you know, that must be resonating with him, you know, in his head, dealing with that in his debut, of course, losing to him. So to call him out is quite a ballsy move that I respect, because I think he deserves that fight. I think there's not much he can do when no one wants to fight him. So I just hope for his sake they make the matchup, because I think he's very talented, and he's young as well. He's very young. So, you know, I think he has that ability to get the belt. I don't understand the discourse around him not being a title challenger. I think that's ridiculous.
I don't think there is any. And I think what people have to remember is, if you're standing on UFC canvas, by default, you are one of the best fighters in the world. So now if you go in there, you have nothing to lose. You're the biggest underdog I've seen in many, many months. You're put in there to be fed to the lions. What are you going to do? You're probably going to plant your feet and throw some heavy leather and think, why not? Because no one else has done that. And when you're a fighter like Arman Sarukian, who's used to the highest of caliber fighters, there's a feeling out process. There's a respect. There's a offering of respect to say that we're not always, but most of the time, of figuring each other out, getting reads in that first round.
Yeah.
If someone comes out and is just throwing ridiculous shots from the get, it's a difficult thing, and you have that in the back of your head, a little bit of complacency and whatnot, and anything can happen when you've got 4 ounce sleeping pills on. So that was brutal. And talking about 4 ounce sleeping pills, I mean, it's not that relevant because he didn't use them, but that Manuel Torres
mate,
elbow.
Yeah, I mean, you know when you're like, I was like heart really tired at that point when I was watching that, and you know when you're just kind of like, you're watching, and then you just see a man get absolutely flattened, and you just don't even react. Like you're still impressed, and you sit there like, yeah, you just say shit, just like, oh shit, like that. But you don't go mental because you haven't got the energy to do it. That's what I was like last night. And I saw on the replay, it is money. Yeah. That replay, that is genuinely, I think the only thing I could compare it to, it reminds me of Cater versus Stevens. Just that step-in elbow, just right on the nose. That's about as perfect of an elbow as I've seen. I think Paul Felder said the same thing. You know, that was just clean. And he was out from the first shot. And the follow-up hammer fists as well. Like, damn. Yeah, no, that surprised me. And actually, I'm kind of glad he got that, because the video I was writing about Mexico taking over the UFC. You know, I can add that to add him to the video now, because he looks like a force. And I needed more fighters, and I realized, you know, up and coming, there's not that many I know. Obviously, we've got 3 champions if you include Yair as the interim, but as in terms of prospects, you know, there's still. I was trying to do a lot of research, and now he's put himself on the map. So that helps me out a little bit.
And that's what that does. When you have a knockout like that, exactly what you said, it puts you on the map. It was good on the mic. He gave props to Grasso, his coach, and obviously his training partners. He's at a very good gym. He's seeing people fight around championship caliber. That's leveling himself up. And he's a prospect. And the thing at the start of the card that I said, and I say often every week, there's always trends in MMA. There's always trends. And I feel like a trend we're going to see at some point, I'm not sure if it's going to be next or in a couple of waves or whatever, it's just the increased use of elbows. I was
thinking that.
Yeah, I don't think elbows are used enough in MMA.
I agree.
I don't think people are using them as advantageously as they could, because they're so devastating. And I like when Paul Felder's always on, when he's on the call, because he always highlights areas where people could use them more effectively. And it highlights to me how little they're actually used. And I made that tweet last night, and then what happened? Elbows, 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 and then an elbow KO. And it was beautiful. The way he just stepped off, he split those two stances and just met fire with fire. And it was so perfectly timed. The point of the elbow to the bridge of the nose. That was art. Beautiful violence personified in truth.
Yeah, it was actually like, speaking of that elbow, it was quite close. He he got clipped a few times in those opening minutes. I was a bit worried for him because his chin was wide open and he was sort of leaving it. He was stepping back and leaving his chin right out. So there was danger there, but he stepped up. It came out of nowhere as well. It definitely surprised me. Yeah.
And also, I've heard people say before when breaking down their fights, I'm not saying it's necessarily the case here, but sometimes I've heard people say that they'll leave that opening there to bait people into throwing that little bit overextended shot or trying to hit a little bit too hard or trying to find the chin. And maybe that's potentially what he was setting up to get that overreaction and then plant the foot and then beat that elbow in the middle, because it's actually not. He just said he made that really of the fight. So it could
just swear to fuck it.
But also I've heard people say that before. So maybe there'll be people in the future baiting that sort of overextension and then play. You know who does it very well? Darren Till. Darren Till does that sort of step-in elbow meet in the middle elbow.
Against Whitaker,
Yeah, that was beautiful when he dropped it. That was crazy. We'll gloss over a couple because there was a couple more impressive ones. Nicholas Dalby with a very impressive performance. Super durable, just grows as the fight goes on.
I just kept double taking him as Rafael Fiziev.
Bring that. Absolutely, bring that.
Exactly like him. Yeah. Sorry, carry on, Lola.
No, you're right. I didn't even think of it yesterday. It looks exactly like Fiziev, just in a bit of a chubbier body. But yeah, no, super impressive. Obviously, Cage Warriors alumni. He got the job done. Kept growing. 3 wins in a row now at welterweight, deserves the top 15 in my opinion, and just a tough problem really. Not an easy fight for anyone because
no one.
Yeah, he's got a good chin and he's got good skills, and I think anyone who's got a really good front kick, low kicking game could probably take advantage of that super wide base that he has.
I mean, speaking of Cage Warriors, bit of a disappointment, man. I can't lie. Duncan, I got cooked on Twitter. Some guy did his picks and he was like, and he had Petrosian winning. I was like, no, Petrosian's getting done in. And then literally after the fight, it just says L. I'm like, oh, shut up, man. But I was disappointed. I can't lie. That was that weird stance shit he was playing at the end of the first round. I was like, what are you doing, man?
There's a couple of things I think with CLD last night. Very strange performance overall, all emotions considered. I knew Petrosian coming into it was a pretty sweet kickboxer. He's not that exciting to watch, I don't think. I think he gets his hands dirty, which is fun. But I mean, in terms of his actual style, he's quite bread and butter, but he does things to a very high level. Very contrasting to Chris Leroy Duncan, who's very abstract, very unorthodox. And he showed some good skills and some good looks. I just saw a little glimpse of the fact that he'd only had 8 professional fights. I think that was the main thing that I noticed. I think his skills were there. I think his eyes were there. And I think the impressive thing is to have the confidence to basically on debut go out on pretty big cards. Obviously, a lot of people watching. And to have the confidence to go and throw these techniques, that should be celebrated because that's impressive to do, to have that sort of mental calmness to go and execute things like that. So props to him on that. I think just from a strategy and just a cage IQ point of view, it wasn't his best night at the office, but I think he still looked sharp, and I think he definitely showed he belonged there. And Petrosian's actually a very good fighter.
Yeah, it's fair. It's as a second fight in the UFC. That's you're not going to get too much tougher than that. It's a difficult scrap. But he's quite old, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe I'm wrong there. Isn't he not?
No, he's
not old.
He's 20.
His hairline says otherwise, man. Jeez.
I think he's 29.
Yeah. Okay. Well, still, then he got plenty. Okay, fair enough. I'm wrong then. Plenty of time in the game, but you'd hope he'd. I mean, the same what we said about Vettori. Plenty of time to grow, work, and improve. So hopefully there is that, because he did look good in pockets, and it was the same in his first fight as well. Before his opponent got injured, as we said last week, he looked good, and it's the same. And if you look in his Cage Warriors fights, obviously it's not the same level of competition. But we know how good he can be on his day. So maybe you're right. It's, you know, the lights maybe a little bit too big, or, you know, just maybe just a tad. I don't know.
I think as well, just the level of opposition just increases dramatically. Armen Petrosyan, getting that man on your second UFC fight is, and the first man he got was Todorovic, and those together are ridiculously difficult, durable, consistent, well grizzled veterans of the mixed martial arts and UFC game. Like, they've been around collectively between them. They've had good fights and at a high level, so they're no scrubs. I want to chuck a matchup out to you that got made this week officially. Run me through your thoughts. The man they called the Korean Zombie, and the man they called Max Holloway. What are your initial takes on that one?
Well, I'm glad they're doing it in Singapore again, if I'm not mistaken. That is the one that they announced a bunch, but that's the one at Singapore, right? So, yeah. I'd
be lying if I said yes.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is. But I'm glad they're going back there, because that 275 was the last one they did there.
Or
yeah.
Korea.
I know they announced 2 events. One of them was in Singapore, and I think it's that one. But if it's not, it's the other one.
That would make sense.
Well, but they are going back to Singapore. And either way, I'm happy about that, because it was great last time at 275 and with Prochazka and Teixeira, which is like one of my favorite fights ever. And that crowd was great as well. Plus, it's always good going to other countries. Is always better than the US. No offense. But I'm the matchup wise, I don't know. I'm not really. I mean, you can't, for Max, you can't really blame him, because where else does he go? He has to just keep fighting. You know, he's had three shots at the title. You know, I don't think you can. Two other shots since he lost it. Yeah, and he's kind of in a Whittaker position where he's like, well, he just has to keep fighting. It doesn't matter who he gets. He's going to say yes to anybody. And the chances are he's probably going to absolutely beat on them, because that's how good he is. So you can't really blame him for taking the matchup. And I feel for Chan Sung Jung, because it's like, that's about as hard of a matchup. Yeah, that's his name. Yeah.
Korean Zombie.
Yeah. Well, we can go with both. But, you know, I feel for him, because there's, you know, that's about as hard as a matchup you're going to get, if you're not, you know, excluding Volkanovski, who obviously he did fight. And I think everyone's going to expect Holloway masterclass. You know, if he can beat Arnold Allen, I know you're not meant to use MMA math, but if he can beat Arnold Allen, I think he can probably beat Korean Zombie pretty soundly. I see it's another beatdown for me, I think. Yeah.
I don't know what Korean Zombie is going to bring to the table in terms of new layers or wrinkles to his game, which is going to give Max Holloway problems. But we have seen Max Holloway bring new wrinkles to his game, which is super impressive, given what he's done, what he's achieved, how long he's been in the game, even though he's still young. And that tenacity and mindset, just that very short-term memory of just forgetting what happened yesterday, forgetting what happened before, and just looking forward. Every time I listen to Max, I just think it's so admirable. I love Volk, obviously, his little bald head with all my heart. But when I look at Max Holloway and I just see the self-belief, the idea to just have this super short-term memory where he forgets everything in the past and just looks onto the future and the present. How can he improve? How can he get the next fight? He'll beat another person. And he's shown that time after time. And just every time I see him do it again, the mental fortitude of that man is just
yeah, he does keep improving. He does keep improving. If you, in the Allen fight, you know, you compare it to how he used to fight, a lot more boxing orientated, which obviously is still his main focus, but he was a lot more patient, measured against Allen. I mean, you know, a lot of low kicks, just sneaking in little shots here and there. And, you know, it was a different Max, still the same guy, but, you know, he's just clearly evolving, just becoming more multifaceted on the feet. And it's weird. We never really see him on the ground. You know, it's not. I don't know if that's just. Yeah, I mean, maybe it's a matchmaking thing, because they just want to see Holloway strike, and I don't blame them for the slightest, because that's what everyone wants to see. But and I don't think Korean Zombie's going to bring that. I don't think, you know, his ground game's not bad by any means, but I don't think he's going to bring that to Max per se. But yeah.
I don't think there's been anyone who's faced Max, including Volkanovski, for how good he is, that sees there's no easy path to victory. But my point is, I don't think he's faced many people where they've seen that as a net positive path to victory in terms of conditioning and gas tank, because to get Max down, to control him, to beat him, to try and submit him, it's going to be very, very difficult to do. And he's super strong at that weight class as well, that people forget. And he's a big body. So sometimes it's easy keeping it standard, but then obviously it's the better of the lesser evils. But there's no question that man's really, really capable of anything. And when you've seen someone fight for decades, it feels like, so many fights with such a similar style, the one thing you have in the back of your head is, okay, next time I see them fight, they're going to look a little bit different maybe, but they're usually going to look like this. For Max to come out and completely refine and revamp his style to where he was a lot more, as you said, measured, he countered a lot more on the back foot, moving laterally, didn't engage as much, didn't take the center, didn't look to back people up against the cage, was a lot more elusive. And Arnold Allen spoke to how he just didn't expect that, because you can prepare for everything, but when someone just flips their style on the head like that, it's incredibly difficult to do.
I think every time we see him come into the cage, it's like it sort of emphasizes the point more that he never got worse. It's just that Volkanovski simply is just a step above, and that's okay. Like, Holloway is never, he never declined or he got worse. It's just someone was better than him on those nights, and I'm okay with that. I'm a fan of both the guys, but I mean, any excuse to see Holloway, put on a clinic. I mean, he's beating everybody. I mean, people always almost forget he beat Yair, like, and he's challenging for a belt in a month.
Yeah, that was
less than ours. So it's like, it's a testament how good both those two guys are. Again, bringing back to, it's like Izzy and Whitaker. It's basically the same thing. Just at a lighter weight class, and that's no disrespect to the other guys in the division. I think featherweight's a lot more stacked than middleweight is. Allen is definitely championship mentality. He's one of the few guys who really, aside from Volkanovski, gave Holloway problems.
Sure.
And that's So it was. I was sad. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna pretend I wasn't sad. But I agree.
And I've seen bigger discrepancies go the other way, by the way. I've seen those decisions go the other way many times, and it would be a lot more understandable and forgiving from that fight. I'm not saying that Arnold Allen definitely won, but I'm saying that it was a lot closer than sometimes actually we remember. But yeah, incredible from Matt. There's another. Before I go to the next one, I want to get your thoughts on. Was there any topics or things you stumbled across?
There was Sergio Pettis defending in Bellator. That surprised me. I gotta say, because I know Pitbull he's a killer, but he cut a lot of weight. Have you seen that photo of him? His head, man. His head looks like a bowling ball compared to his body, and he must be doing a TJ Dillashaw, I reckon. There's no way he's doing that naturally. I refuse to believe it.
I respect the hustle incredibly.
Yeah, for sure.
And in terms of what he's achieved, he's one of the most well-decorated fighters of all time. So huge respect to Pitbull. But in terms of just dropping that much weight at that age, this point in your career, I mean, respect for getting it done and walking in there against a dangerous man. And you forget Pettis is actually only 29, which is crazy.
That's mad. You think about when he was in the UFC.
Yeah, and he's 2 years off. There's not really anyone at that sort of age who's seen and done more than
Sergio
Pettis, for example.
I mean, he fought, how long ago was it when he was in the UFC? So quite a while. Yeah. So he would have been really young. Yeah, and he lost to, no disrespect, like he lost to like Moreno, which obviously in hindsight is, there's no shame in that at all. I'd love to see him come back to the UFC. I think that would be, he's clearly just elevating. He had in his last fight, he was taking a lot of damage, and then he kept that spinning elbow out of nowhere. Was it a back fist? I love that finish. And he made it look easy this time. So I think he's just improving every time. So, and obviously everyone knows it's not a secret that the UFC is a step up from Bellator. So there's probably going to be question marks there if he does come back. But I'd love to see it, especially to follow in his brother's footsteps and get the belt. That would be a good story. So I'd like to see that.
Talk about getting the belt. Francis Ngannou and John Jones
I had this one
face to face at PFL. Of course you did, because every MMA fan
Yeah.
would, because it's given us blue balls. Is this fight going to happen? Is it not? The anticipation is absolutely killing us. Just give me off the dome. What are your thoughts on this situation? Because
I think it's a bit ridiculous because it's just we could have had this fight. Do you know what I mean? It reminds me. I think
we can have this fight. We can have this fight now.
Why the street? We can't have it. So I mean, unless UFC ain't crossing over with PFO, are they?
They're not. But why are they not?
Well, why? It's not in the UFC's interest, is it? I mean, well, actually, maybe now it is.
There's no rule. There's no piece of litigation that says we cannot do this. The only thing stopping this getting done is this preconceived notion that the UFC doesn't do crossovers, which I understand why there is a narrative painted around why that isn't the case. I do understand that. But my point is there is actually no roadblock or obstacle stopping getting this fight done, crossing it over, having Francis Ngannou versus John Jones, and then having Jake Paul versus Nate Diaz, MMA.
Don't even.
And I'm talking a mega pay-per-view. Mega pay-per-view. I'm talking $1.5 million. Jake Paul, Nate Diaz, John Jones, Francis Ngannou, UFC, PFL, mega.
God. Imagine somebody telling you that in like 3 years ago, man. Actually, more longer than that. Jesus. Yeah, I mean, it could happen. I'm not going to sit here and say I wouldn't want to see it. I just wish we saw it under the UFC for the belt. Do you know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, you can talk money and all that, but to everyone else, all anyone cares about is the legacy and the belts and the records. That's what people remember. So
it doesn't need to be for the. It doesn't need to be for.
Yeah, it doesn't. But it would have been better if it was. You know what I mean? I wish we had that.
But we would know, and they.
Yeah. I know, but it's like
John Jones is laying there cold, and his eyes are looking up at the lights, and he wakes up in this haze, and he sees Francis Ngannou just staring over him.
I wish, man.
No way that he leaves that scenario and thinks, "Yeah, I'm the baddest man on the."
It's all right. Tom Aspinall will do that for him. It's fine. Yeah, he will. But no, I wish that fight, the Ngannou one. I hope that happens. But it does feel a bit childish, like this whole thing. I think it's all showmanship, and it reminds me of boxing and politics in boxing, and just
it's fun.
You know, Tyson Fury, which I'll get onto in a minute, but all of that sort of, goose chase, running it around, nothing. Then the fight never even happening. I can't stand it, man. There's a time for a time for trash talk and showmanship, and it's when the fight's already about to happen. It's in the build-up to a fight, not when nothing's been organised or announced.
Devil's advocate, you have to start somewhere. There's no smoke without fire. And sometimes fights get made because of this bickering for extended periods of time.
Yeah.
And it causes enough notion and causes enough tension that eventually there's enough interest for them to go, you know what? Too many people talk about this. Too many people would buy this pay-per-view. We need to make this happen. The press conference is going to go wild. Our social media is going crazy every time these two go back and forth. Let's make it.
I don't think you need that, though. If that fight sells itself.
No. You always need it. You always need it.
No, I'm saying you could have it after, like when in the build-up, of course. Go have it. But you don't need them sizing each other up. Like, it's cool, yeah, but like if nothing's going to happen, then it's not happening.
What would Chael Sonnen say? What would you think Chael Sonnen would say?
No, of course he loves it.
You have to be cutting constant promos.
Yeah.
As WWE as it is, if you can get those two facing off and you can get those two just talking to each other in each other's ear saying, you know what, you don't want this. And you know it's getting a little bit more competitive and a little bit more tense every sentence that goes on. And you're getting that close-up angle when you're posting down the socials, the engagement's going stupid. People are like, oh, we need to sit. No, we need to. You're seeing them both next to each other. Jones is looking pretty thick.
He's
fighting Connor. Just a beast. He's a beast. Those men, you just see him as they sort of feeling each other out. You're thinking, these are two specimens we've got.
I think I'd probably enjoy that. I think I probably would enjoy that whole lot more if the fight actually had a realistic chance of happening, because I just don't see it. I just don't see it.
One day,
and if it does, they'll both be washed up at like 45, like the trilogy match with Liddell and Ortiz, like that, like shit like that. It would be like that. Like no one will care. It would just be uncomfortable. I don't
know
know.
if I'm naive or optimistic, but I'm one of them, and I'm confident it's going to make it happen.
I hope it does, because as a fan, from a fan's perspective, I'd love to see it. I think everybody would.
Let's get your quick thoughts then, just as we touch on John Jones, the Tyson Fury side, while potentially going to come into I'm not sure about that, potentially boxing. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I don't know how much of, I don't think you can really take Fury at his word anymore, because he went from really hated to beloved for like 3 years to now everybody hates him again, and a lot of just bullshit and lies. And it's kind of like, he said, "Oh, I've been offered a hybrid fight," and I don't know if I even believe that as much as obviously Dana's done. We've seen stuff like that before with maybe not to this level with Mayweather, but I don't know if I can take Tyson Fury's word there. But if that is true, it's exciting. Not sure how well that would go for him, but at all. But I mean, of course, like who wouldn't want to see that? Let's be honest.
I think if you're doing a hybrid rules, 4-ounce kickboxing essentially in a cage, Tyson Fury and John Jones, I think that's so exciting, because people will say, "Oh, John Jones." But Tyson Fury's boxing is so good. It's going to be so much better. Especially people are going to say that John Jones is fought in the smaller clubs and blah, blah, blah. Don't forget, Tyson Fury is a bare knuckle boxer. Mate. That's where he cut his teeth. That's where he got the name Gypsy King. That's where he's born and bred, and that's where he's most comfortable. Is in that sort of
you're
range.
Right.
And it'd just be super interesting.
So is it kickboxing? I thought it was just.
I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, either way, if it's kickboxing, he takes a couple leg kicks, he's over for him. Let's be real.
This is true. A couple of little leg stomps.
That couple of leg kicks, it's over, man. I'm sorry. There's no way. It doesn't matter what it is. If it's a hybrid fight, there's no way he wins it. It doesn't matter what realm. The moment you're allowed to throw he's allowed to throw kicks. Fury hasn't got a chance in hell. I just don't. I don't see it, because he doesn't have. I mean, think about it. It's years and years of being ingrained to block. Ingrained to register.
It needs to be boxing.
Coming.
It needs to be boxing only. Boxing.
I mean, well, the thing is, I don't think it's. I guess that kind of ruins the appeal for it, though, because if it's boxing, Jones doesn't have a chance.
Elbows.
I mean,
knees.
So you just make the rules up then.
Yeah. Why not? We're not just trying to make it as competitive as
I make it as completely, close as possible, because I think it's either the pendulum is either it's either one way or the other. There's no. It's very difficult to find a balance with predetermined rules that Muay Thai and boxing and kickboxing. I think because it doesn't matter which one you pick, it's one way or the other. It's either going one of the two is dominating. It just depends on the field that it's jumping in.
Let's have a look at next week's card, and we'll start at the top. We'll have a look at some exciting ones.
Actually, let me get it up. Should have had this up
off the top. The main fight is super interesting. This is really a litmus test for Ilia Topuria.
Oh yes,
Josh
what
Emmett.
a crack of it.
Where do you think? We know Josh Emmett's skills, and they're not going to look too different in this fight, I don't think. He's going to be strong. He's going to have that low base. He's going to have explosive entries into his wrestling. He's going to have explosive right hands. And he's going to try and do basically anything to set that right hand up and just detonate that nuclear weapon repetitively. I was very dubious that was going to work at the higher level. And I remember mentioning it at the time, and we saw what happened against Yair Rodriguez. I think that was just showing the levels of striking. Do you think that Ilia Topuria is going to be able to expose that as well with the boxing?
I don't know, because they're both kind of similar. I mean, Topuria is definitely a lot more technical, but they're both power punchers. It's a great matchup, because let's be real, someone's getting absolutely levered. I just don't see another option of neither of those guys getting, there's no way that fight goes to a decision. So I don't know. I wouldn't, it's definitely not a fight I'd bet on, that's for sure. I think I'd favour Topuria, but the risk of either of those guys getting knocked out means it's just, I don't know what the pick would be.
If I
do you know what I mean?
You into prediction, what would you say?
I'd go Topuria. I'd go Topuria either maybe by TKO or a sub maybe.
I think that Josh Emmett's going to have his moments in this fight. I don't know if he's going to be able to get Topuria down, hold him, get any sort of control, because we've seen the caliber of Topuria's wrestling, and then the jiu-jitsu's off the charts as well. So I think that's going to be not beneficial or not advantageous for Josh Emmett to do. I think this is going to be a stand-up kickboxing fight. I don't think we're going to see a ton of kicks out of Josh Emmett. I think we're going to see him just throw that big right hand. And I think he's going to tag probably Topuria maybe once, maybe twice. He might get him in some hot water. But I think over 5 rounds, Topuria is just going to find those pockets of space where he can extend his combination, opposed to Josh Emmett's 1-2. I think we're going to see Topuria add a 3 and a 4 onto that. In close,
he's just got more to him.
Yeah, maybe just go into the body. Maybe if Josh Emmett's overextending on that right hand, he capitalizes that. Whether he goes to the body hard on that and then goes up top. We saw him do it against Jai Herbert.
Mate,
just devastating.
Oh my God! I mean, the whole arena went just silent, man.
I'm gonna say Ilia Topuria 4th round TKO stop.
4th rounds.
But I can really see this fight going any which way. I can even see the Topuria submission, something aggressive. Maybe he's got him tagged, he's getting into the cage, and he just jumps on a neck, a front choke of some description. But yeah, I think Ilia Topuria gets it done, but Josh Emmett's got every.
I'm with you there.
Still super skilled. Brendan Allen, Bruno Silva. I like this one. You like this?
Yeah.
You like this matchup?
Yes, it's a decent scrap. I mean, I'm favouring Brendan Allen. I can't lie, but it's if I had to like pick a fight that definitely personifies a fight night, it would be that. That's no disrespect to them, but it's a perfect fight night fight. I see it. I see Brendan Allen get some success there. I mean, they're both good guys. They're sort of right in that pocket where, it's just starting to, teeter on, they're being more recognisable. But they need a couple of wins to really get in that conversation. People start talking about them. So I think that's a good opportunity for both of them.
The thing with Brendan Allen is he's actually had a stupid level of competition in his years.
Yeah.
He's so young. And we look at him, his striking's always nice. His kickboxing's always improving. His basics are good. His kicking game, his jabs, his feints, all nice. Then we see his jiu-jitsu. We're seeing him rip people's necks off and just be sticky, getting subs against jiu-jitsu artists, who, by the way, I picked that in his last fight. A lot of people backed him to get submitted, but he's got slick jiu-jitsu. And you start looking at that and you think there's not a lot of players at 185 pounds who can do all those things.
Yeah.
Blend it so well. And he's just starting to put some momentum now. And he's at a super young age where he's combining that experience with his talents mentally and physically, putting it all together, doing it in main events, doing it at the top of big fight night cards. And I think he's 1 or 2 fights away from people really saying, you know what, Brendan Allen's an actual problem, because he's been on the cusp for a little while.
Yeah.
He's just had a loss at the wrong time, whatever it may be. But his skills are right up there. I'm excited for this one. I think he gets it done. I think he submits Bruno Silva to be played.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm gonna say the same pick as you. I'm with you on that one.
Yeah. I think a good fight. A couple of that stick out. Neil Magny, Phil Rose, scrap. Austin Lane, ex NFL player, junior.
Oh, really?
Which is obviously, Austin Lane. He's the second NFL player and the first
We don't say his name.
No. The other one is active, and it's Zach.
Oh, that Borger, yeah.
We've got to mention had a good win over.
Yes, of course, yeah. I thought you were going to say Greg Hardy.
No.
We don't talk about him, man.
No,
piece of shit. Fuck you, Greg, if you're listening, man. We don't like you.
Shout out to Modestus as well, by the way.
Yeah, but shout out to Modestus, yeah.
Yeah, like I said last week.
I didn't watch the fight, though. I couldn't watch it because they don't have it on... They don't have the early prelims on BT. They got rid of them a couple of years ago. And pisses me off.
You got to get 5 parts. Got to do that.
I might have to.
Yeah, it's a
I actually want to mention Onama versus Santos. That's a cracker. I actually think, because Santos fought at 286, so I watched him live. I actually think he won that fight. I don't think, and as much as I love Lerone Murphy, I think he can crack. I don't think he deserved that. I think Santos won that fight. So, and they're both of those guys are very high level, and a lot of those people who watch the sport, they just take their rankings as gospel, and that's the level they see people at. They don't, just because you're not ranked, doesn't mean you're not championship quality. And I'm not saying Santos is or Lerone is either, but they're both very high level guys, and I wouldn't be surprised to see them climb that ladder in the future. But Santos is versus Onama is a banger. Of course, we saw Onama versus Nate the Train. Right. That was I love that fight. So he clearly has the heart to. But I mean, both of them do. If you watch from their recent, from Santos's fight against Murphy and Onama's against Nate, I think you can tell they both have that dog in them to keep going. I fancy Santos a bit more. I think he's just a bit more technical, less sloppy. The whole 15 minutes of that fight, he looked on it all 15 minutes. And I think that's going to be the difference. I think he gets that done. Maybe a sub in the second round.
Yeah,
That's what I'd go with.
It's a good fight to highlight because Unama is excited, and I remember putting on him on notice when he came last minute's notice, upper weight class, a lightweight, fought Mason Jones, and he arguably beat Mason Jones. And Mason Jones is super talented, ex-Cage Warriors champ.
Yeah.
Obviously not in the UFC anymore, but super talented fighter. And I remember being impressed by him. So yeah, that'll be a good scrap. A couple others that jump out that I'll quickly just go over. Trevor Peak, who's just, if you haven't seen him fight before, it's just a very unorthodox scrapper.
Is he making his debut?
Mitchell, no. He fought before on a UFC fight. No,
Yeah, I'm seeing no.
and he had a wild finish. He's just throwing.
He fought a fight night. He
was just throwing crazy things. And Bruce Buffer actually gave him his introductory card after. And Bruce Buffer said he's only ever done that once before because he saw something special in Trevor. Which, if you watch his fight, is crazy because his skills are very unorthodox. But we need to sort of wrap this up because my battery is dying on my laptop. So another one that I quickly want to shout out just before it dies is Jack Jenkins, super powerful low kicker, snapped 3 people's legs previously before.
Shit.
Coming out of Australia, shout out to Jack Jenkins. Love to watch this guy fight. Super well-rounded, great conditioning, great gas tank, great game. Yeah, really nice Muay Thai. He's fighting at featherweight from Australia. Sick mustache as well, and low kick.
Yeah, no,
like Justin Gagey at featherweight. Honestly, it's insane.
I just want to jump on one. Tatsuro Taira's fighting. I didn't see. I had that guy underrated. Well, I see. He's underrated by people who don't watch. He is elite.
Wow,
that guy was going to go far.
I'm so glad they pulled him up, and literally got about 20 seconds before my laptop goes. But Tatsuro Taira is one of the most exciting prospects, in my opinion, in the UFC in terms of the flyweight. Exciting on the mic. He just screams and shouts and tries English, and it's freaking brilliant.
Charles Oliveira types.
Yeah, I absolutely love it. And he's so dangerous. He's striking coming along, and his jiu-jitsu's nasty. But anyway, that pretty much wraps us up.
We sped around that.
Yeah, we sped run through that. My laptop's
short one today.
But yeah, good to jump on a call. Always good to chat.
Always,
for tuning in, people. Always drop your questions, anything you've got to say. The thing. Drop Leo Cooper a subscription on YouTube.
Likewise, to
Casuals Corner MMA.
Absolutely.
And as always, take care. Peace.